When you send out your invitations, let your guests know that this is going to take place, because it's kind of strange to get to a place, a dinner, and then they say, okay, take off your shoes, we're going to wash each other's feet. Like you would like to have a heads up so that, you can make sure that your socks don't have holes in and those types of things. So just let your guests know about this. Peter said, Master, there is no way that you're going to wash my feet. And Yeshua said, if I do not wash your feet, you will not have any part of me. So he said, wash my whole body then. So Pesach is around the corner, and I wanted to talk a little bit about what that means for a New Testament believer, somebody who believes that the Messiah has already come. Because Yeshua, Jesus, was our Passover lamb. And so there's a different meaning for a New Testament believer than for somebody who does not believe in the New Testament or that the Messiah has already come. I'm Andrea Tilsley, and this is going to be my 12th Pesach. So I've been to a couple tables, and I wanted to just prepare you for your seder that is around the corner. Whether you're going to be a guest or whether you are going to host it. So there are a couple of elements to the evening that you need to know about. The first one is the seder. This is the seder. And you don't have to have a specific seder plate like that. You can make something like this or like this, because I don't have one of those. I just improvise. But I'll talk about the things on the seder plate in a bit. The other thing that you need to know about is the haggadah. This is a haggadah. I have one in the description below for you, one in English and one in Afrikaans. And it's in a doc format. It's in read-only mode. So just download it, and then you can edit it and add or take away how you wish. Let's talk about the seder plate. Now, you need to know a Pesach meal is one evening. Pesach is on the 14th of Aviv, also known as 14 Nisan. If you Google when is Pesach, then the date that you will get is really on the 15th of Aviv or 15 Nisan. I do it the evening before because that is on the 14th of Nisan. So, for example, for 2024, we are going to do our Pesach on the Monday evening. This is how Yeshua did it. On the table, you'll get these seder plates. And on that, you will get maror. So, bitter herbs. The bitter herbs can be horseradish or other radish. I don't know the difference between normal radish and horseradish, so I use these ones. And then you can also put other bitter herbs like rocket or romaine lettuce. There's also charoset. Charoset is a mixture of nuts and honey and apples. I think you can put cinnamon in as well if you would like. We'll get to that where it is in the Hagaddah. We'll get to that. You will also find karpas, which is parsley and some salt water, and the bone, the lamb shank bone, and the hard-boiled egg. That's more traditional Jewish. That egg represents the sadness that the Jewish people have because the temple was destroyed. As a New Testament believer, we are now the temple of God. God lives in us now. So, and also Pesach it's a solemn occasion, but there's joy to that. So I haven't been to a Pesach before where there is an egg. I don't believe there's space for that. So you won't find that on my seder either. That bone traditionally represents Israel's hip. Do you remember when Israel fought with the angel at the Jabbok River, and then the angel hit his hip and he walked with a limp for a while? That is what the bone represents. For a New Testament believer, the Pesach lamb was not allowed to have any broken bones. You were not allowed to break any bone on the Pesach lamb. And do you remember at the end of the crucifixion story where they wanted to break the guy's bones, but Yeshua had fortunately already passed, so they didn't break any bones of his, but they put a spear in his side and water and blood gushed out. So that bone represents that no bone was broken of Yeshua. The karpas, the parsley, you'll see, we'll get to that, is where you dip the parsley into the salt water, and then it's supposed to taste just like tears to represent us of the tears that comes with slavery and oppression. One big theme with Pesach from a traditional standpoint is that the Israelites were slaves in Egypt, and then they were freed. In the same way, we are slaves to sin, but due to Yeshua's sacrifice, we are now free. So that's a big theme. That's the beauty of the festivals, because all the festivals that God tells us He would like us to keep these appointed times refer to something in the past, in this case, the Exodus from Egypt, and something in the future, which is now in our past, which is the crucifixion. And so there's always overlapping themes. Any case, back to our cedar plate. The bitter herbs, God said, eat the Pesach lamb with bitter herbs, and the charuset is the clay. That is the apples, nuts, honey. That's the clay that they worked with as slaves. And all these elements you will see in the Haggadah during the meal. I would not recommend that you invite people to your table for Pesach who are not on the same page as you regarding the Messiah. How can a New Testament believer celebrate Pesach with somebody who doesn't acknowledge Yeshua as their Passover lamb at all? I can't see that. We've had some very near and dear family members who for some years didn't believe that Yeshua was the Messiah. Praise God that they are back at the Messiah now. Unfortunately, we could not have Pesach with him. It is a sacrifice, but otherwise it'll just be uncomfortable and awkward. You don't want that. And also imagine how awkward that will be if you're around the table with somebody who doesn't believe the same as you. Now you read scriptures in the New Testament, etc., that they don't agree with, and then it just brings this awkwardness to the situation. Furthermore, don't invite anti-Semitic people either. This is an inherently Jewish thing. There's Hebrew in the Haggadah and all those things. If you're going to have somebody who hates the Jews, who is anti-Semitic, like they're going to, in their hearts, mock what you're doing. And that is going to interfere and make it extremely unpleasant. Another important thing to remember is the Pesach is the whole evening long. This is a set-apart evening. You have no other plans for the evening. This is your plan for the evening. If you start at 7, you'll probably end at like 10 or 11. It's a long affair, but it's beautiful. And enjoy it while you are there. We are here to commemorate and honor God and what He did, the miracles that He did in Egypt, the absolute miracle and the wonderful sacrifice that was made with what Yeshua did for us on the cross. Extremely set apart evening. And it is a serious affair. This is not one of the festivals where many people are invited and it's a joyous occasion. This is a solemn, serious event. What a wonderful opportunity that we have to be able to celebrate this. I am not born a Jew, and here I get to experience this. It's something, Yeshua was a Jew. These things were deeply into his culture. Doing these festivals give us a glimpse into his culture, and it just makes the gospel so much richer, etc. Okay, let's get to the evening. Let's get to the Haggadah. You may want to download yours so that you can have a look. Remember, there is not allowed to be any chametz at the table. Chametz is raising agents. God says there can be no leaven at the table. So, if I say chametz, what does that mean? That means any sourdough, yeast, raising agents, baking powder, those types of things, it's not allowed at the table. Why not? Why is chametz not allowed at the table? Chametz symbolizes sin. This is why it isn't proper to do communion with bread that has sourdough in it, because that signifies sin. And if this bread symbolizes Yeshua's body, he was without sin. So it should be unleavened bread to show that Yeshua was without sin, because otherwise he could not have been the Pesach offer, because they had to ensure that this lamb that they're going to sacrifice was without any spot or blemish. This is why it's important. And remember, straight after Pesach is the festival of Matzah. So there's also a teaching on that, and you are welcome to have a look at that. I'll just put a link at the end of this video for you to have a look at that. So let's get to the program. So, the Haggadah. Print one for each person. This is the one that I printed last year. I didn't put a date at it so that it can be reused. I let each person take theirs home so they can go through it at their leisure. The first one is the invitation to the hungry, which is read, and then the welcoming to the Pesach seder. Then we light the candles. Point number 3 is we light the candles. We usually say the Hebrew blessing and then also read the Afrikaans or the English translation so that people know what's going on. Chances are pretty slim that everybody at your table understands Hebrew. And then we like to blow the shofar to just announce the festival. If you don't have a shofar, then you can play just a shofar sound that can be found on YouTube. There are some nice ones on there. Something to note about the Pesach seder is that there is a portion before the meal, then it's a meal, and then there are some things that are done after the meal. You will see. So first we read the instruction that God gave in Leviticus 23 as well as in Exodus 12 so that we can just have some history and remind ourselves every year why we are here. The next part is specifically done by believers in Yeshua, and that is the foot washing. When you send out your invitations, let your guests know that this is going to take place because it's kind of strange to get to a place, a dinner, and then they say, okay, take off your shoes, we're going to wash each other's feet. Like you would like to have a heads up so that, you can make sure that your socks don't have holes in and those types of things. So just let your guests know about this and also ask them to bring a basin and a towel so that there's one basin and a towel or multiple towels for each household. This is done because Yeshua and his disciples did this at the Last Supper, because Yeshua wanted to show that it is important to serve one another. So he bent down and he did the most menial of tasks that is usually reserved for the lowest of servants. He washed his disciples' feet. Peter said, Master, there is no way that you're going to wash my feet. And Yeshua said, if I do not wash your feet, you will not have any part of me. So he said, wash my whole body then, because Peter was so zealous. And Yeshua said, no, he who went through the water, so if you were baptized, is clean. Let's just do this. So Yeshua washed his feet to show that it's important to serve. So we like to do this as well as a reminder. Now, there's some protocol here. Couples wash each other's feet. In other words, married folks. The husband and wife wash each other's feet, and then the father could wash the children's feet, and so forth. For single people, you don't want a single lady and man to wash each other's feet. That's not in line with modesty. Same genders. So ladies wash each other's feet, and men will wash each other's feet as well. You'll also see in the Haggadah, I put little blocks there to show if it's an action for everyone, to make it simple and easy to see where there is action. Then we come to the glasses of wine. A very distinct thing with Pesach is the 4 glasses. Throughout the meal, there are glasses that are meant to signify a toast made to the promises that God made in Egypt. 2 glasses we drink before the meal and 2 glasses after the meal. So this is the first one, the cup of sanctification. I believe what Yeshua and his disciples did was there was 1 glass, it was filled with wine. You can use grape juice as well. And each one takes a sip, it goes around the table. If you want to do it that way, let each one just wipe the portion where their mouth was after they took a sip before they pass it on, just for cleanliness, if you would like. Otherwise, what I do at my table is each person has their own glass, and with each cup in the Haggadah, you put a little bit in, just a mouthful, wheat toast, and then you just drink out of your own glass. The next part is the karpas, which is the parsley that you dip in the salt water and you eat it to signify the tears that come with oppression, which we are freed of. And then we come to the matzah. Remember, right after Pesach is the festival of matzah. This is matzah. 1 matzah, multiple matzos. The plural for matzah is matzos. So it's unleavened bread. This is the theme of the festival of Pesach as well as the festival of Matzah. This is the Yachatz bit. Very significant for Messianic believers. On your table, you'll have 3 matzos. So on your table, you want multiple, but close to where the host is, you want 3 matzos. During this bit of the Haggadah, you will take the 3, you take the middle one out, and you break it. The larger one is wrapped in linen and hidden away. Does that sound familiar? 3 matzos. One is broken, wrapped in linen, and hidden away. It's Yeshua, right? So that we will look for after the meal. We will go look for that. We'll get to it. But this is very significant for Messianic believers. And then the last bit is passed around the table. Each one takes a bit and eats. You'll be grateful for it because you're hungry at this point. Then we get to the Magid. Magid is the story of the Exodus from Egypt. And on page 7, the next page is part of that, where each plague that is mentioned, you'll dip your finger into the wine or into the grape juice, and then with each one you make a little dot. So if you say frogs, then you make a dot in your plate. And if you say lice, then you make a dot in your plate. That is what the tradition is. And then the Dayenu part is, Dayenu means it would have been enough. So you read that he led us out of a sinful life to an everlasting life. Dayenu, that would have been enough. And then he did this. That would have been enough. And then he even did this as well. That would have been enough. So that is what the Dayenu bit is about. Now, after we tell the story of the Exodus, I believe it's only fitting that we also tell the story of the crucifixion. So this is where you can tell it. I didn't put the words in the Haggadah because you want people to listen to this attentively. Organize with somebody else who is not the host to tell the story. Give them the printout of the story, which you can also get in the folder with the Haggadah. Let them practice beforehand. Let them know beforehand that they have to practice this and that they will be reading this on the evening. We then get to the part where the seder really comes into play. The maror is the bitter herbs, which there are some verses about it. You take some matzah and you take some of the bitter herbs and you eat it with that. And then you'll get the charuset part, which signifies the clay. You know, the clay that the Israelites as slaves used to build in Egypt. Then we get to the second cup. The cup is sent around. This is the cup of deliverance. So it's sent around, or each one takes a sip. And then we get to the meal. Traditionally, there will be lamb there. So I like to make a leg of lamb, which is absolutely delicious. Remember, there can be no raising agents or yeast at the meal at all. So that includes baking powder. And also something to remember, you cannot sacrifice a lamb and eat the whole lamb. It's not done in the way that it's done in Exodus 12, where you're like girded and ready with sandals and that. Yeshua and them didn't eat it like that. Just a meal. You can take your time, but you cannot call the lamb the Pesach lamb. That is not allowed according to Deuteronomy 16. So then you have the meal. After the meal is the second part. It's shorter than before the meal. Now the first item on the agenda is to go and get the afikomen. This is that piece of matzah that was wrapped in linen and hidden away. So maybe ask a child, maybe have the children, make it a competition. Who gets the afikomen first? You can have a prize for the winner. And so then you could even put the lights off and they have to use a candle. You can, those types of things. But somebody goes and searches for the afikomen and brings it to the table. Interestingly enough, many households in Judaism ascribe some power to the afikomen. They'll keep it throughout the year, and if somebody is sick, they give some of the afikomen to them. It's believed to bring healing. Isn't it interesting? On a piece of matzah, there are holes and stripes. Isaiah 53 says, through his stripes we are healed. Through Yeshua's stripes we are healed. He is this person who was hidden in linen and then taken out of that, right? Super cool. I love it. Yeah, so that's the afikomen. So now we take this afikomen and the second part on the page is the bread of life. Yeshua is the bread of life, and we now do communion with this afikomen. So it's passed around the table. Each one takes a piece. Remember that Yeshua's body was broken for us, for our afflictions. Take that. And then we come to the next cup, the third cup. In Luke it says, after the meal, Yeshua took the cup and he said, do this in remembrance of me. His blood was shed for us. So the next part of communion is to drink the wine or the grape juice in remembrance of Yeshua and the blood that was shed for us. After that, it's Elijah. Also some fun for the children. Do you remember it was prophesied that Elijah would come and prepare the way for the Messiah? And that was John the Baptist. He came in the spirit of Elijah to prepare the way for Yeshua. So it is fitting that we just acknowledge Elijah in a way. This is very traditional at the seder. So an extra place is set for Elijah. Nobody sits there. That's Elijah's place for in case he joins us throughout the meal. During this bit, send a child to open the door and call for Elijah. Elijah, Elijah, and then leave the door open. If you would like, you can sing the song of Eliyahu. This can be found on YouTube. And then if he doesn't come, then just go close the door. Then the fourth cup, the cup of completion regarding the kingdom of God. And then we say the Birkat Hamazon, which is the blessing after the meal. In Jewish tradition, a blessing is said before you eat or drink something, and then after the meal, this prayer is said where we thank God for the food and we ask Him to bless the land where it comes from. So that is in the Haggadah, and then there's some praise and worship. I have some songs at the end of the Haggadah. You can put anything in, but I do recommend that you print the lyrics and put it in the Haggadah so that each one has the lyrics. You don't want someone sitting there not knowing the words and stuff. So that is necessary. After the praise and worship, we end the Pesach with the words, next year in Jerusalem. Lashana Haba'a Yerushalayim. Next year in Jerusalem. Because, we just speak that over each other and we wish to see each other again next year for the Pesach, but in Jerusalem. And 1 year, that will be true. And then we just end it all with Chag Sameach le Pesach le HaMatzot. So, blessed Pesach and Matzah festival or feast. Because that is right after, the Feast of Matzah is right after Pesach. And yes, so if you would like some more information on that, you will find the link right now. Yeah, so I really wish you a wonderful Pesach and a great celebration. Many blessings to you and to your family. Shalom.